IMS bearings are built by accountants. They look the same at the front as they do the back, and they're just for people that can't afford a real Porsche. Have I got all of the Boxster tropes out of the way? Because honestly, I am so tired these days of talking about common issues that everyone's discussed that I don't want to waste any time in my own videos going over them. At one point in time, I'd done so many 996 and 997 videos, I just got bored of discussing IMS issues, so I stopped doing it. Then people started commenting on my videos where I didn't talk about it and saying, how could I possibly overlook that issue? Well, look, it's been 20 years. If you've been in the market for a 986, 996, 987 or 997 in that time, let's just agree that you're aware of these cars' shortfalls, shall we? Good. And that means we can get on with this review proper. And I am very, very grateful to this car's owner, Chris, for driving an awful long way to bring it to me, and his timing is impeccable. If you are a follower of the channel, you may have seen the fact that I recently spent a lot of time in a very nice, brand new, £250,000 Ferrari Portofino. And this review is equally as important to me because I want to use it to assure you that I am in no way, shape or form about to lose my way and start ignoring the more accessible and, let's be honest, more important cars out there. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, now is your time to do so because I would be very, very grateful for it. So, the Boxster, the 986, the car that saved Porsche, or Porsche, and I'm not going to get into that debate here either. You can't ignore it, it's out there, there's loads of them, and if you're looking for either your first Porsche or just first sports car, they seem to be excellent value for money. Now, part of the reason for that will be the aforementioned issues, but they're just a car that never really got an awful lot of love. However, spending a lot of time with this generation of car, as I have, you do quickly find that there is a lot to say for them, especially when you consider, in the UK at least, that you can now pick one of these up for the same price as a reasonably tidy Mark 1 MX-5. That's nuts. You can get a ropey, dog-eared one of these for about £2,000 or £3,000, and honestly, I can't imagine ever spending more than about 10 grand on one. It would just be nonsense. They are available in all sorts of specs and trims, and they are, I think, actually aging very well indeed. Another thing I refuse to do in this review is talk about numbers, for a very simple reason. If you're after a car that's going to impress on paper, save your time, look elsewhere. Even this top-of-the-line S model, with its larger 3.2-litre engine, produces performance figures that will make a Fiesta ST owner laugh in adolescent joy. It's just not that type of vehicle. You will often find that those people who have the worst things to say about the Boxster are usually those that haven't driven them. There are a couple of exceptions out there, including my friend Stuart, who has done the right thing, driven a Boxster and still hates it. He is of course entitled to his opinion because he has tried. If you are the sort of person that is possibly even a bit of a Porsche fan but still insists on writing off the Boxster as being the inferior car, please try one before you do. The introduction of the 718 with its turbocharged flat 4 was something of a turning point for the model. In fact, Porsche themselves, I think, are realising that there was perhaps a bit of a mistake on their part. My buddy James recently spotted a prototype Boxster on the Autobahn in Germany, and it was definitely rocking a flat 6, or so I am told. With the arrival of the 718, I think a lot of people realised that it wasn't actually just performance figures that meant the most to them in their little sports cars. It was how the thing talked to you, the way it sounded, the way the engine delivered it power. All of these things that us petrolheads have been harping on about for ages and yet are often ignored. This is a delightful, joyous little thing. It's easy to drive, it's friendly, it's approachable. Yeah, it's mid-engine, so you've got to still give it some respect, but It's a freezing cold day out there. These are lovely roads. I got the roof down, and it's such a charming little car. It's just so eager to please. The steering is nice and light, but not entirely devoid of feel. It's actually lighter than I think you would get in the equivalent 911, and the car is very keen to change direction. This one is rocking 18-inch GT3 alloys off the period 911, and I'm not a fan of those, but of course wheels are easily changed. This car in black also picks up the dirt very easily, and I don't want people commenting about how we could have cleaned it, because honestly, we couldn't. There's about 3 roads that are flooded around here. I've already filmed one review this morning after cleaning a car and getting it dirty half a mile down the road, so there's just no point. This car's still got a standard exhaust, and it's quiet but still produces a gorgeous tone. Heel and toe is really nice, and the gearbox in here is a delight. Not all 996 or 9860 gearboxes are good. It's very nice to be able to rev out one of these cars on camera, because I do try and be conscious of the speeds I do in these reviews, and so many cars, it's so easy to just do absolutely ridiculous speeds. The Boxster is often criticised for having ridiculously long gears, and yes, to some extent this car does suffer from that, but the upside is that at 60 mile an hour in 6, we're doing just over 2,000 RPM, meaning the engine isn't manic, and it will return reasonably decent fuel economy, at least for a 6-cylinder sports car from 20 years ago. The fact that this car shares so many parts with the contemporary 911 should also be seen for the used buyer as a very good thing. It means that any problems the Boxster had are probably problems that the 911 had, which means that there will be solutions for them, and spare parts will of course be readily available. Porsche are excellent at supporting their heritage customers, and the aftermarket scene for these things is excellent as well. Okay, not quite as great as something like an MX-5, but it's pretty damn good. My sole criticism of the gearshift really is that the throw is a little bit long, but you'll find about a dozen different solutions out there from different people who'll all be happy to sort that for you for a price. The action though is absolutely fine, and I would say this is a far better gearshift than many of the 996 911s that I've driven. Throttle response is just brilliant in a way that I forget after driving modern cars. It's so easy. You find yourself changing gear just for fun. It's just wonderful. So nice, so pleasant. It's a great thing to be in. The view out's pretty good too. You got those little haunches at the front, and although the Boxster is not the sexiest car ever, actually I think it's a fine looking thing, and most of the people buying one of these probably aren't buying it to show off. If you were, it's the wrong kind of car. In fact, I think my S2000 in its specification is probably a lot more showy than this. And if we are going to draw a comparison between those two, which I know some people will want, the S2000 doesn't steer quite as well. They're both slightly light. The S2000's definitely got the more engaging engine, but then the Boxster has the much easier to use engine, and the flat 6 is not lacking in character whatsoever. With a sportier exhaust on this, it would be just a perfect thing. Both of them have semi-electric hoods, meaning that you still do have to do a little bit manually, just unclipping stuff up here and then pressing a button. The Boxster's party piece is how stupendously practical it is. You have 2 boots in this car, and both of them are a decent size. Unlike the 911, the Boxster has a sort of full diameter spare at the front, which I would probably take out and replace with a can of squirty cream. However, this car's owner has recently had to make use of that spare, so I guess it isn't always a bad thing. Overall, I'm just loving life in the Boxster, really. It's the kind of car, I mean, I'm very lucky. I get to drive a lot of cars all the time, so I'm used to bouncing between things. but just sitting in this, getting back down it, and just everything about it feels inherently right. Now, not all Boxsters are the same. Chris's car has been extremely well kept, and despite the fact it only has about 74,000 miles on it, not all of these cars have worn their years quite as well. The interior of these isn't the best. It was a low point in Porsche production. They do suffer when neglected, but this one clearly has been looked after. You do get a few little oddities, like the fact that this car has only the 3 dials up here as opposed to the 5 you get in the 911, which is very annoying in this car because you can see that there is definitely the space to have all the dials. They just decided they needed to provide some separation between this car and the flagship. Now, of course, although to purchase one of these is going to cost you about the same as a very tidy Mark I MX-5, to run, it is going to be more expensive. Your parts prices are going to be higher, servicing is going to be more expensive, and something on it probably will break at some point. But keep yourself a slush fund aside, find yourself a local, trustworthy Porsche independent specialist, and there are plenty of those about, and the cars do really appreciate being looked after properly, and you'll probably have a pretty positive ownership experience. If you're looking at a car and the car looks tired, just walk away. There are plenty of these out there that you can actually afford to be reasonably picky with your cars. This car is actually different enough that as an S2000 owner, I could happily have one of these alongside the Honda. It has a very different character to it. The Honda's a little nutter, basically. It's a tiny yellow psychopath is what it is. But this thing is somewhat more relaxed. It is still a true sports car, but just goes about its business in such a nice way. Our constant quest for improvement in every measurable way has produced these days a Boxster which is so much faster than this. It's really better compared with a 911 Turbo of the period than one of these. But that's not always a good thing, because when you're presented with a beautiful British B road like this, it's nice, it's clear, there's nothing in front of you, so you don't have to worry about powering past someone in a last minute overtake. This is a delightful little thing. Steering's perhaps a little less communicative than I would like it to be, but I think this car's tracking probably needs a little bit of work, and that'll no doubt bring some improvement. But otherwise, as a package, for the money, this is a huge amount of car. It really is. It's nearly Christmas. I got the roof down and I can enjoy driving. And you could, like this car's owner, daily one of these too. If you've never thought about buying a Boxster in your life, consider it, because they're so much fun. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please like, comment below, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.